Hello, hello. We are back with another installment of Cage's Comments. I am Alex Cage, and I will be commenting today. We are about 5 hours away, 6 hours, I guess, really, from what is probably likely the end of my San Antonio Spurs this season and the crowning of the New York Knicks as the champs. So we will be a couple days later reacting to the insane end of Game 4, and I have still not fully recovered from the shock, but recovered enough, I guess, to make this video. Slash, I do have a day job, so hence why this is maybe a little late. But we'll get into that, and then thoughts on. I'll probably save the long-term thoughts for off-season stuff. But how did Game 4 feel? I talked to you guys last time before Game 3, after the first two, and I said that I thought the Spurs needed to win both. So they were halfway there, and then they were 3/4 of the way there, up 29 points. And boy, I thought, that's it. We're good. It's going to be 2-2, best of 3, 2 games at home. Spurs in 7 is looking like a great bet. However, that obviously was not come to pass as the Spurs blew a 29-point lead. As I was sitting there watching the utter collapse of the Spurs, I had an eerily similar feeling as to one that I had before, but in the opposite direction. So I haven't talked football on this channel at all yet. I will end of the basketball season as we get closer in August. I like fantasy football. We'll see if I talk that. But I bring that up because as strange of a combination as it may be, I grew up a Spurs and Patriots fan. So I was a sophomore in college when the Patriots were down 28-3, and I was sitting there in my dorm room, and I thought, that's it. That's the end. Is this actually going to be maybe the last of the entire Brady-Belichick era? All of it. It would have been 3 Super Bowl losses in a row, if I'm not mistaken. If I had the timeline right. No, they had beaten Seattle before that. But regardless of which, they looked old, and I thought, man, maybe they were done. And then they came back. And after that game, and after the comeback, when they won, I was in my dorm room for the rest of the night, and I was just in a state of shock. I couldn't believe it. I was happy as hell, obviously, but I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe Edelman caught the pass. I couldn't believe Matt Ryan fumbled. I couldn't believe the Falcons didn't just run the damn ball. And that thought, I can't believe it, and then the coinciding plays ran through my head all night, into the next day, and probably into the day after that. And man, that was the exact same feeling, but in the absolute opposite direction that I felt as I was watching the Spurs, and in the final moments, how did Fox not just dribble it out? How did Wemby miss the free throws? How the hell did they decide to double and leave OG? Which, on a quick side note, the decision to double Brunson off of OG is an insane decision, not just because of the offensive rebound potential. Like, it's an insane decision because OG was killing them that night, and if you're doubling off of a guy, Brunson could have just made the pass to him, and he would have been wide open for a game-winning shot as opposed to running in for a tip. All of it was insane. And that's what went through my head for the better part of the last 48 hours. Was just couldn't fathom it, in a state of utter shock. So congrats and great job to the Knicks. I'm sure at some point you guys have seen on Twitter or TV the last few days, they are 5-3 in the last 2 postseasons when they're down 20 points. They've gotten down, first off, they've gotten down 20 points, 20 or more points, 8 times, and they've won 5 of them. And the rest of the league has won 4 or whatever. It's insane. Truly, the Comeback Kids, truly a team that you just have to play 48 minutes. And the Spurs have just simply not. They've led in almost every single one of these games. If I'm not mistaken, they've led in the fourth quarter by double digits in almost all of the games. And the Knicks just keep coming back and keep coming back. And the Spurs just keep finding ways to not finish these games. It is remarkable. So credit to them, and just an all-time, obviously, collapse. But that was my feeling. Is I imagine it's how the Atlanta Falcons fans felt when you just watch your team utterly collapse in the biggest moment and the championship. It's remarkable. So there's been a lot the last 2 days, obviously, about the Spurs and who's to blame and who should receive the most blame. And the easiest one that I saw most directly after the game, and that I probably felt at the time because of the sequence and the kind of the chronologically how it happened, was Fox. And he had a lot of bad stuff, don't get me wrong. But really and truly, I feel like if you're going to lay this at the feet of any one person, it's got to be Wemby. It just has to be Wemby. So there's going to be a lot, regardless really how this series ends. And I've already seen some Spurs. He's 22. It's fine. It's his first final. And you know what? That is all correct. And when the Knicks put me out of my misery, I will say all of those things as well. He is 22. It is his first finals. We've seen superstars have bad moments in their first finals. LeBron got swept. Tatum, was a turnover machine his whole first run to the finals. It happens. But that doesn't mean that in the moment and right now, look, man, you drew a flagrant foul from Mitchell Robinson and said, I'm in their head. I'm in their head. And then you went 2 of 9 and 1 of 4 from the free throw line in the fourth quarter. I mean, that just ain't great. And I think he's the best player in the world. I still think he's the best player in the world. But when you're, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And when you're the best player in the world and supposed to be the best player in the world, and we have heaped all of the praise, and you're the most mature 22-year-old superstar, we've ever seen, and you went in the offseason, you went with the Monks, and the moments of immaturity or inexperience, you don't really get to just duck behind the fact that you're 22, at least not in the moment. Again, none of this stops me from being as excited as you can be for the future of the Spurs. But right now, I think Wemby deserves kind of any and all of the heat that he's gotten. Some of the post-game stuff. I try not to take Wemby's the directness or cockiness in terms of saying after 0-2 we're built for this, or saying that I'm sure you guys have seen the quote that's a bit out of context about we believe the context of that is everyone believes we're going to do it, is not everyone on the outside. He was asked how the team feels. and try to remember that some of the quotes are probably a little more direct or a little off in that regard because he doesn't speak English as his first language. Um, and so, but I don't know what he says in French either, so he might be just as cocky. But if you on the floor do the I'm in your head, and he seems to really enjoy some of the extracurricular, competitive, intense stuff, which you can love and I think is good maybe long term, that he enjoys it, that it'll, engage all that. But like you do that and then you crumble the way the Spurs needed one more basket, right? They needed one of their guys to stop the run, to get one more basket, and none of them could. And that, first and foremost lays at Wemby's feet. So if I had to pick one person, it would be him. That being said, Fox, Mitch Johnson, not great. Not great down the stretch. Fox, obviously, the whole the layup, right? Not dribbling it out, but also dribbling it off his foot at one point. The complete failure of the Spurs at the end of this game on offense to effectively put Jalen Brunson in actions. Every time they did, it seemed somehow that Fox was still attacking OG Anunoby, who was just fantastic and might have made himself the MVP of the series with this game, just seemingly attacking him one-on-one multiple times instead of being able to actually get Brunson to have to make the switch is a tough spot to be in. For Fox, it continues what is going to be the narrative when and if they lose this series of whether or not he actually has a place on this team past this year, whether or not that makes sense. But you're the guy who your whole role, ostensibly, as the mentor to Castle, the mentor to Harper, is that you're not supposed to make those mistakes late. That you are the guy who won the first ever Clutch Player of the Year award. You're a guy who's been a 25-point-a-game scorer, and not just on like a crappy team. Like that Sacramento team was the 3 seed that won 48 games. Like you've been an All-NBA player before. You've been an All-Star, an All-Star again this year. That's a really tough spot for you to end up still looking like, yeah, but it is, look, and it is his first deep playoff run. But, one would, I guess, kind of had hoped that he'd grow, like, he'd learn a little quicker than the rookie and the second-year guard, and it really just doesn't look like that at the end of these games in the finals. So, the Fox part is tough and could absolutely have repercussions past this series. The Mitch Johnson part is an interesting one. The decision not to have the 7'6" guy on the ball, throwing it in, looks even worse when the Spurs' final attempt was tipped on the sideline by Karl-Anthony Towns because Mike Brown was like, yeah, we should make throwing the ball in hard with the 7-footer we have, right? Like, that's just, that's a really tough look. And I think the whole team froze. I really do. And so, Mitch gets that heat too. But that's kind of the recap from Game 4. It's not great, obviously, for the Spurs. Like I said before Game 2, or before Game 3, that I thought the Spurs needed to get both games in New York and even this series up to get home court back. And I don't know how you can sit here and look at this and think, yeah, now they're going to rip off 3 games in a row. Guys, I could absolutely positively see the Spurs, being in the lead again. In if God forbid they did it the next 3 games, I just don't understand how I could have any faith at the moment that they would actually finish off 3 games in a row without screwing it up to the point of losing one of them, even if they got the lead. So, as far as Game 5 goes tonight, I think the Knicks probably win. That is such a devastating loss to have that kind of loss to where not only did you blow the lead, but then you also like screwed the very end of the game up as well. To have another loss like that, like at the end of Game 2, where you screwed the very end of the game up as well, that is would be a remarkable feat of like emotional and mental resilience if the Spurs were able to come out tonight and win this game. Which, look, for all of the criticisms of this team, they have been good off losses. And if there is something about a team taking on the personality of its best player, Wemby, for better or for worse, with the cockiness and I'm in their head and all of that, I think maybe almost irrationally believes that he is like destined to do this stuff. And that the rest of the Spurs can feed off that. So if he comes out and he's really good and he's poised at the end of these games, then yeah, they could win one, but that would be remarkable. Winning Game 5, I think, would be huge for kind of moving past this and being like, look, it happened, it's fine. Again, I don't think they will, and I certainly don't think they're going to go back to New York and win. But if they do, then I'll be picking them for Game 7 at that point, I guess. But that seems like a really uphill battle to me. So thanks guys for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see what the Spurs look like here in a few hours. Thanks guys.